If things don't work out with him, you'll take me back, right? She asked. I laughed, hung up, and booked a trip to Bali. She just got dumped, and my flight is tomorrow. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The clink of my fork against the plate sounded like a gunshot in the tense silence of our table. I watched Maya, my girlfriend of 3 years, scroll through her phone under the white linen tablecloth, her thumb moving with a frantic energy. She never reserved for our conversations anymore. Big news at work? I asked, trying to keep my voice light, neutral. I'd become an expert in neutral. She didn't look up. Oh yeah, something like that. This had been the rhythm of our lives for the past 2 months. A slow, creeping distance that started with delayed text replies and had evolved into entire evenings spent in the same room, but in different universes. Tonight she was dressed for a photo shoot, not a casual dinner at our regular spot. A little black dress that was new, heels that were definitely not made for walking. I'd complimented her when I picked her up, and she just said, "A girl has to make an effort sometimes, Alex," with a tone that implied I usually didn't. The salmon's good. I offered another peace treaty, launched into the void. It's fine, she said, finally placing her phone face down on the table. A deliberate act of sacrifice. Her eyes, a brilliant green the first ones thought I could drown in, scanned the room, looking anywhere but at me. A bit overdone, honestly. Not as good as last time. There was no last time. We'd never eaten salmon here before. I let it go. Letting things go had become my primary function. Everything okay, Maya? Really? I asked, abandoning the pretense. You've been distant. She sighed. A long-suffering sound I knew. Well, it was the sigh that preceded a lecture about how I was being needy or overly sensitive. Everything is fine, Alex. It's just adult stuff. Work is intense. You wouldn't understand the pressure. There it was. The gentle pat on the head. You, my simple, unambitious boyfriend, couldn't possibly comprehend the high-stakes world I inhabit. I was a graphic designer who ran my own small, successful agency. I understood deadlines and clients just fine. But I learned that pointing this out only led to longer, more condescending sighs. Right, I said, swallowing a mouthful of that overdone salmon. It tasted like ash. Just checking in. She offered a thin, perfunctor smile. That's sweet, but I'm handling it. The rest of the meal passed in a blur of small talk, so brittle it could shatter. I paid the bill, another silent ritual. As we walked to the car, she walked a half step ahead of me, her posture rigid. The connection was gone. I felt like I was escorting a glamorous stranger back to her hotel. A week later, the silence in my apartment was a physical presence. It was a Tuesday night. I was on the couch sketching idly when I heard her key in the lock. My heart did a foolish, hopeful little jump. She hadn't used her key in weeks, always texting me to let her in. She breathed in, her cheeks flushed, her eyes bright with an excitement that was a stark contrast to her restaurant gloom. She looked triumphant. "Hey," I said, setting my sketchbook aside. "Alex," she said, her voice breathy. She didn't take off her coat. She just stood in the middle of the living room, as if she were a real estate agent about to tour the place. "We need to talk." Those 4 words. They hit me in the chest with the force of a physical blow. I knew, somehow, in the pit of my stomach. I'd known this was coming since the night of the salmon. "Okay," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Talk." She took a deep breath, but it wasn't a nervous one. It was the breath of someone about to deliver a well-rehearsed speech. "I've met someone." The words hung in the air. Simple and devastating. "His name is David." She said the name like it was a precious artifact. He's a partner at a venture capital firm. He's incredible. Alex, the things he's done, the life he leads. He has a plane, a literal private plane. I stared at her. I tried to process the words, but they were so absurd, so cliché. They just bounced off my numb brain. A plane. She was leaving me for a guy with a plane. So, I managed, the words feeling thick in my mouth. That's it. 3 years and you're leaving because he has a plane. A flicker of irritation crossed her face. Don't be reductive, Alex. It's not about the plane. It's about what it represents. Ambition, drive, a life without limits. Her eyes swept over my cozy apartment, over my sketchbook on the couch, over me. You're comfortable. You're my comfort zone. You're happy here in this little bubble. David is the adventure. He's the upgrade. The upgrade. The word was a punch to the gut. I was software version 1.0, and she was ready to install the new and improved model. I see. I said, because I didn't know what else to say. What do you say when the person you love tells you you're obsolete? She misinterpreted my silence for acceptance. Her posture softened, and a patronizing smile touched her lips. It was the smile that broke me more than anything else. It was the smile you give a child who's finally understood a difficult lesson. Look, she said, taking a step closer, her voice dropping into a conspiratorial tone. Don't take this the wrong way. You're a great guy. You're kind. You're stable. You're my safety net. She paused, letting the phrase safety net hang in the air between us. It was not a term of endearment. It was a classification. If things don't work out with him, she continued, her head tilting as if she were offering me the most generous of consolation prizes. You'll take me back, right? I mean, it's us. What we have is real. It's just on pause. I looked at her. I really looked at her. The woman I'd planned the future with. The woman I'd loved. And in that moment, I didn't see the person I thought I knew. I saw a stranger who had just calmly, smugly, informed me that my role in her life was to wait in the wings indefinitely, a reliable understudy for the star who might flub his lines. The anger, the hurt, the betrayal. It was a storm raging inside me, but on the surface, a profound, icy calm settled over me. It was the calm of finality, of a door not just closing, but being locked and bolted forever. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just looked at the woman who saw me as a backup plan and said, my voice eerily quiet, I think you should leave now. For a second, she looked startled, as if she'd been expecting an argument, or worse, grateful acquiescence. Then her smile returned, tighter this time. Okay, if that's how you want to be, you need some time to process. I get it. She turned and walked out of my apartment, out of my life, without a backward glance. The door clicked shut, and in the echoing silence, I sat down on the couch. The sketch of a life we'd talked about. A house, a dog, kids, staring up at me from the floor. The storm inside me subsided, replaced by a single, crystal-clear thought. I was Plan B. The realization wasn't accompanied by tears. It was accompanied by a strange, liberating clarity. The game was over, and I had just been told in no uncertain terms that I had lost. But as I sat there in the quiet, I realized something else. The only way to lose a game you never agreed to play was to finally, calmly walk off the field. The click of the door was the period at the end of a 3-year sentence. I didn't move. I just sat on the couch. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in the sudden vast emptiness of the apartment. The air still carried a faint trace of her perfume, a scent I'd once associated with homecoming, Now just the ghost of a lie. The storm of emotion I expected, the rage, the gut-wrenching sorrow, never broke. Instead, a deep, unnerving calm settled over me like fresh snow smothering a landscape. It was the calm of absolute certainty. There was nothing to fight for, nothing to salvage. She hadn't just broken up with me, she had demoted me. The clarity was brutal, but it was also clean. There were no messy, unanswered questions. I knew exactly where I stood on the bench. I stood up, my movements mechanical. My eyes fell on the sketchbook on the floor. It was open to a page where I'd been idly drawing a concept for a new logo. A twisting, abstract knot that resolved into a bird in flight. The irony was so sharp, it was almost funny. I picked up the book and closed it. That life, the one I'd been sketching with Maya in the margins, was gone. My gaze swept the room, and for the first time, I saw it not as our space, but as a museum of my own naivete. The framed photo on the bookshelf from our trip to Colorado. Her laughing, me looking at her like she hung the moon. The ugly ceramic vase she'd made at a pottery class that I pretended to love. Her favorite fuzzy blanket draped over the armchair. A strange energy buzzed in my veins. It wasn't anger. It was purpose. I went to the hall closet and pulled out a single, medium-sized moving box. I didn't need more than one. I started a methodical sweep of the apartment. My mind a cool, dispassionate inventory list. This wasn't a heartbroken purge. It was an extraction. I started in the bathroom. Her expensive moisturizers, the half-empty bottle of perfume, a hairdryer, a bag of makeup. Into the box. It wasn't violent or rushed. It was clinical. Each item was proof of a presence that was no longer welcome. From the bedroom, I took a few novels from her nightstand, a stray hair tie, a sweatshirt she'd left behind. I didn't linger on the memories attached to them. I was an archivist, boxing up an exhibit that had closed permanently. The final item was the photo from Colorado. I took it out of the frame. For a long moment, I looked at our smiling, younger faces. The guy in that photo was gone. He'd just been politely informed of his own irrelevance. I didn't rip the photo up. I simply placed it face down on top of the other items in the box. Then I sealed the box with packing tape. The sound was final. I carried the box out to the building's mailroom and left it by the outgoing packages. I texted her a single, unadorned sentence. "Your remaining things are in a box in the mailroom." I didn't wait for a reply. I went back upstairs, took out my phone, and blocked her number. Then I opened my social media apps and blocked her there too. It took less than 60 seconds. I felt a click. Not on the screen, but in my soul. A circuit had been broken. The silence in the apartment was different now. It wasn't empty. It was peaceful. I walked to my desk and opened my laptop. The screen glowed in the dim room. For years, Maya and I had talked about taking a big trip. Bali was always the dream. We'd saved a decent chunk of money in a joint account labeled Future Fund. It was supposed to be for a down payment on a house. A shared future. A cold, clear thought formed. That future was dead. The fund was now just money. My money. I navigated to a travel site. My fingers flew across the keyboard. No hesitation. Denpasar, Bali. One way. The dates popped up. I selected a flight leaving exactly 1 month from today. It felt right. A full, clean lunar cycle to shed the old skin. I clicked through to payment. The total was a significant dent in the future fund. I felt a twinge. Not of guilt, but of liberation. This wasn't an escape. It was a reinvestment. I was taking the capital earmarked for a life with her and pouring it into a life for myself. The confirmation email hit my inbox with a soft ping. Booking confirmed. San Francisco to Denpasar. I leaned back in my chair. The deed was done. In the space of 2 hours, I had erased her from my home, and booked a ticket to the other side of the world. There was no triumphant feeling, no fist pump, just a quiet, steady hum of forward motion. I looked around the apartment again. It was still my apartment, but it felt lighter, the air easier to breathe. The ghost of her perfume was fading, replaced by the simple scent of wood and dust. I wasn't waiting for a text. I wasn't analyzing her tone. I wasn't Plan B. I was just Alex. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like more than enough. The game she thought we were playing was over. My game, it turned out, was just beginning. And the first move was a one-way ticket out of her orbit. The first month passed in a strange liminal space. The initial silence was a bomb. I worked. I went to the gym. I saw friends who didn't know the specifics, just that Maya and I were done. I told them it was mutual, that we'd grown apart. It was easier than explaining I'd been designated a human safety net. The anger never came in a hot rush. It had crystallized into a cold, hard diamond of resolve in my chest. Every time I looked at my Bali ticket, the diamond glinted. It was my North Star. The box I'd left in the mailroom was gone after a couple of days. No thank you. No acknowledgement. Radio silence. I was grateful for it. Then 3 weeks to the day after she'd walked out, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Unknown number. Alex, it's Maya. I know you're probably still upset, but blocking me is childish. I just wanted to see how you're doing. David is amazing, by the way. We're in Monaco. Hope you're well. I read it standing in line for coffee. A strange sensation, like ice water trickling down my spine. Not hurt, not jealousy. Amusement. The sheer, unadulterated audacity of it. It was a classic move. The casual post-breakup boast designed to provoke a reaction, to make me feel small. She was testing the waters, seeing if the net was still securely in place. She was throwing a pebble into a well she assumed was still bottomless with my devotion. I took a screenshot. I saved the number under Do Not Answer. Then I blocked it. I didn't feel a thing. The pebble had landed in dry earth. Monaco. Good for her. It had nothing to do with me. I got my coffee and went about my day. The silence held for another 3 weeks. The date of my flight was now a tangible thing, just days away. I was packing my suitcase open on the bed when my phone vibrated. A voicemail from another new number. I almost deleted it, but a morbid curiosity took over. I put it on speaker and continued folding a t-shirt. Her voice was shaky, thick with tears. She wasn't faking. It was the sound of someone whose world had just cracked open. Alex, pick up, please. It's me, David. He's not who I thought he was. He was just using me for a few weeks until someone shinier came along. He dumped me in Monaco. I had to pay for my own flight home. It was so humiliating. I think I made a terrible mistake. Can we please talk? I need you. I have no one else to talk to. I stopped folding. I listened to the raw desperation in her voice. A younger version of me would have felt a surge of pity, a knight in shining armor instinct to rush to her rescue. That guy was gone. The cold diamond in my chest didn't thaw. It just got heavier. Her words weren't a plea for me. They were a plea for the comfort of Plan B. The backup was now being activated. I deleted the voicemail. I blocked the new number. Her mistake. Her consequence. Not my emergency. I finished packing. The suitcase was a promise I intended to keep. The final attempt came the day before my flight. I was doing a last clean of the apartment. My passport and boarding pass lay out neatly on the kitchen counter, like sacred objects. My phone rang. It was Sarah, a mutual friend who had always been more Maya's friend than mine. The one who loved drama. I almost didn't answer, but a part of me wanted to see this through. Alex, it's Sarah. Her voice was sharp, accusatory. Sarah, look, you need to call Maya. She's a mess. A complete mess. What you're doing to her is cruel. I almost laughed. What I'm doing to her? Yes, she made a mistake, Alex. A big, stupid mistake. But you're just abandoning her when she needs you most. She's devastated. The man I knew wouldn't be this heartless. He'd have some compassion. I felt a flicker of anger then. Not for me, but for the sheer toxicity of the expectation that I should be the emotional dumping ground for the person who discarded me. "Sarah," I said, my voice calm, flat. "The man you knew was Plan B. I'm not available for that role anymore. I have a prior engagement. Please don't call me about Maya again." I hung up before she could reply. The message would be relayed. The net was officially gone. The desperation that followed was inevitable. It came that night. A frantic knocking on my apartment door. I knew who it was before I looked through the peephole. Maya stood there, her face puffy and blotchy, her hair a mess. She looked nothing like the polished woman who had left me. She looked small and broken and real in a way she never had before. I opened the door, but didn't step aside. I just stood there, a silent barrier to my new life. She burst into tears immediately. "Alex, you won't answer my calls. How can you be so cold?" I said I was sorry. "What do you want, Maya?" My voice was even. I felt like a scientist observing a fascinating, volatile specimen. "I want us back," she sobbed, wrapping her arms around herself. I was stupid, blind. I see that now. You're my rock. You're the only good, real thing that ever happened to me. David was a lie, a user. Please, can we just forget this ever happened? Please." She looked at me, her eyes begging, expecting the comfort, the forgiveness, the safe harbor she had always taken for granted. I didn't get angry. I smiled. A small, genuine smile of absolute liberated clarity. "Forget," I said, shaking my head slowly. "No, Maya. I can't forget. That conversation you had with me in this apartment was the most important one we ever had. You were finally perfectly honest. You told me I was the backup plan. And you know what? I'm grateful for that." She stared, confused. "Grateful?" "Yes, it set me free." I gestured around the empty, clean apartment. "I'm not your safety net. I'm not your comfort zone. And I am definitely not waiting around to see if your life with someone else works out." Her face began to crumple, the hope turning to panic. She saw my packed bags by the door. "Where are you going?" I turned and walked the few steps to the kitchen counter. I picked up my passport and the printed boarding pass. I held it up so she could see the destination, the date, the time. The flight was in 10 hours. "You asked me 3 months ago," I said, my voice quiet but carrying perfectly in the still air, "if I'd take you back if things didn't work out with David." A flicker of that old entitled hope returned to her eyes. "Yes." I looked from the boarding pass to her. "They didn't work out, and my answer is no." The hope shattered. Her face contorted, not in sadness, but in pure, unfiltered rage. The mask was fully off. This was the real her, the one she hid beneath the tears and the apologies. "You're a bastard," she spat, her voice venomous. "A cold, heartless bastard. You were never the man I thought you were. You're just pathetic." I didn't flinch. I just looked at her, this angry, humiliated stranger on my doorstep. "No, Maya," I said, my voice dropping to a near whisper filled with a final, absolute truth. "I'm exactly the man you told me I was, the one who plays it safe." I glanced at the ticket in my hand, then back at her. "And right now, the safest thing for me is to get as far away from you as possible. Goodbye." I didn't wait for a response. I closed the door. Not a slam, but a firm, definitive click. The sound of a vault ceiling. The next morning, I took a taxi to the airport. As the plane lifted off, climbing through the clouds, I looked down at the city shrinking away. The storm of her arrival, the silence of my exit, the desperate unraveling of her attempts. It all felt like a story that had happened to someone else. I leaned back in my seat. She was right about one thing. David was an adventure. He was the adventure that showed me I was worth more than being someone's consolation prize. And for that, I supposed I owed them both a thank you. The plane turned, heading west toward the sun. I closed my eyes, not to sleep, but to rest in the quiet, profound peace of my own irreplaceable company. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.